Sometimes it's not time that heals wounds, it's the courage to face what time has left behind. The rain drizzled lightly over the sprawling grounds of Pine Hill Cemetery in Portland, Oregon, a place where silence echoed the weight of countless unspoken memories. Marcus Langford, a man in his early 60s, stepped out of his sleek black SUV. His polished shoes crunched against the damp gravel as he made his way toward a familiar headstone. He came here every year on this exact date, October 12th, to honor the memory of the only woman he had ever truly loved. His hands, steady but weathered with age, carried a bouquet of white lilies, Samantha's favorite. Every visit to this grave was a painful reminder of what he had lost, of the choices that had shaped his life into the isolated one it had become. Marcus was a man of power and wealth, a tech magnate who had built a digital empire from scratch. His name was recognized throughout the Pacific Northwest, appearing in headlines, tech magazines, and on sleek billboards promoting the latest innovations from his company. He had everything most men dreamed of: wealth, prestige, and a lifestyle admired by many. But in these quiet moments at the cemetery, none of it mattered. Here, he was not the shrewd executive, not the relentless innovator, but simply a grieving man who had once known a love so profound that even time had failed to diminish it. Samantha had been the only gentleness in his otherwise hardened world. They had met decades ago when he was still a young man trying to carve out a future in Seattle. She had worked in a small photography studio in Capitol Hill, her eyes always sparkling with imagination and her heart open to love. Unlike Marcus, who was consumed by ambition, Samantha believed in experiences, small, beautiful moments that made life richer. She would drag him out to the waterfront, urge him to walk with her through Pike Place Market, and remind him that life was more than code and contracts. She had been his light, his compass, until the day she vanished from his life without explanation. Marcus had searched for her, leveraging every contact and resource at his disposal, but Samantha had disappeared like a whisper in the wind. For years he questioned what he had done wrong, whether he had driven her away. The uncertainty haunted him, lingering like shadows in the corners of his mind. And then, 5 years ago, he had found her, here in this cemetery. Not in life, but in death. He had come too late, only to discover that she had succumbed to illness, leaving behind no answers, no farewell. Only her name carved in stone. He knelt before her grave, the rain seeping through his coat as he laid the lilies gently on the earth. "It's been 5 years, Samantha," he whispered, his voice nearly drowned by the rustling leaves. "And I still don't have the answers." His fingers traced the cold granite, her engraved name feeling like a scar that would never fade. He closed his eyes, allowing the memories to surge, her laughter, her perfume, the way she had brought warmth to his world. A sudden movement in the distance caught his attention. He wasn't alone. A young man, likely in his early 20s, stood a few yards away, hands buried in the pockets of a worn leather jacket. He had dark hair that curled slightly at the ends and a lean build that hinted at struggle rather than comfort. His expression was unreadable, a mixture of sorrow and hesitation, as he stared at the same grave Marcus was kneeling before. Marcus frowned. He had never seen anyone else visit Samantha's grave. He had assumed she had no surviving family, no one left who remembered her. But this young man, he wasn't just passing through. There was something in the way he looked at the grave, something intimate, something deeply personal. Marcus slowly rose to his feet, his sharp eyes fixed on the stranger. "Did you know her?" he asked, his voice steady but laced with curiosity. The young man hesitated, shifting slightly as if weighing whether or not to respond. Then, after a long pause, he finally spoke, his voice rough but oddly familiar. "She was my mother." Marcus's heart stopped. The world around him seemed to blur, the rain, the trees, the gravestones all melting into a hazy fog. He stared at the boy, searching for something, anything to prove this wasn't some cruel joke. "What did you say?" His voice was barely more than a whisper. The young man exhaled sharply and ran a hand through his damp hair. "Samantha Langford was my mother," he repeated, locking eyes with Marcus. "And if what she told me is true, then you're my father." Marcus felt the ground shift beneath him, like the earth itself had cracked open beneath his feet. The words struck him like a tidal wave, shattering every truth he thought he knew. A son. He had a son. A son he had never known about. A son Samantha had kept from him all these years. His breath quickened, shallow and uneven. His mind raced through 1,000 questions, but only one made it past his lips. Why? Why didn't she tell me? The young man, his son, offered a bitter smile, one shaped by years of unanswered questions. I guess that's something you'll have to figure out, he said quietly. Without another word, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the misty Oregon rain, leaving Marcus standing alone at Samantha's grave, more lost than he had ever been in his entire life. Marcus stood frozen, the sound of the rain fading into the background like a distant echo. The young man's words still reverberated in his mind, each one slicing through him like a blade. She was my mother. You're my father. He struggled to comprehend it, but the truth felt intangible, like trying to hold on to a dream that was slipping through his fingers. His son, his own flesh and blood, had stood right in front of him, and then walked away. His legs weakened as he reached out, placing a trembling hand on Samantha's gravestone to steady himself. Why had she kept this from him? Why had she allowed him to live in ignorance all these years, believing she had vanished without explanation? His breath hitched as he turned to scan the cemetery, eyes desperate to find the young man. But he was gone, swallowed by the rain, the trees, and the gray Portland mist. For the first time in years, Marcus felt something he hadn't allowed himself to feel: panic. He had spent his life controlling every detail, ensuring nothing ever caught him off guard. But now, standing in the rain, he felt utterly powerless. He had to find him. He couldn't just let him vanish. He needed answers. With hurried steps, he rushed toward the cemetery's exit, his eyes scanning side to side, desperate for a glimpse of the young man. As he reached the main road, his heart pounded when he spotted a lone figure walking away, shoulders hunched against the cold. Without thinking, Marcus called out, his voice slicing through the quiet of the evening. Wait. The young man stopped, but didn't turn around. Marcus took a deep breath, pulse thundering as he closed the distance between them. When he finally caught up, he hesitated, unsure of what to say. Please, don't walk away. I need to understand. The young man turned slowly, his dark eyes unreadable. Up close, Marcus could see it, something familiar in the shape of his jaw, the sharpness of his gaze. It unsettled him more than he'd expected. The boy, however, remained unmoved. Understand what? He asked, his voice carrying quiet resentment. That you never knew I existed? That my mother raised me alone while you built your tech empire? Marcus flinched. He had always thought of himself as someone who could face any truth head-on. But this was a truth he wasn't ready for. I swear to you, I had no idea, he said, his voice raw with emotion. She never told me. He searched the boy's face for some flicker of belief, but all he found was guarded skepticism. What's your name? Marcus asked, realizing he didn't even know the most basic thing about his own son. There was a pause. Then, reluctantly, the young man answered. Logan. Logan. The name felt strange in Marcus's mouth, yet oddly familiar, like it had been waiting, buried somewhere in the deepest part of his soul. For years. Marcus swallowed hard, the lump in his throat pressing painfully. Logan? I don't know why Samantha didn't tell me. I don't know why she kept you from me, but I need to know. Please, tell me about her. Logan let out a dry, bitter laugh and shook his head. You want me to tell you about her? He asked sharply. Where were you when she was sick? When she was struggling to pay rent? When she worked double shifts just to keep us afloat? He stepped closer now, his eyes burning. Do you have any idea how many nights she cried herself to sleep, wondering if she made the right choice? Marcus felt like he had been punched in the gut. He had spent years mourning Samantha, convinced she had simply left him. Never once had he imagined she'd been suffering. The thought of her scraping by while he lived in penthouses and negotiated multi-million-dollar tech acquisitions made his stomach turn. I didn't know, he whispered. If I had, I would have. Logan cut him off. You would have what? Shown up like some hero and thrown money at the problem? His voice rose, thick with anger. That's the difference between us. You think money solves everything, but she didn't need your money. She needed you, and you weren't there. Marcus felt the weight of those words settle deep in his chest. He had no defense, no explanation, only the brutal truth. He had failed Samantha, and he hadn't even known it. You're right, he admitted quietly, his voice raw. I wasn't there. and I can't change that. But I want to know you, Logan. If there's even a small chance to make things right, I'll take it." Logan stared at him for a long moment, his eyes searching Marcus's face, as if trying to decide whether he could trust what he was hearing. Then, with a tired sigh, he looked away. "It's too late," he murmured. "She's gone, and you're just a stranger." He turned and walked off, disappearing into the maze of Portland's dim, rain-soaked streets. Marcus stood motionless, watching his son fade into the night, feeling more lost than he had ever felt before. Marcus sat in his penthouse apartment overlooking the Willamette River, the city lights stretching endlessly beyond the towering glass windows. Portland had always been his kingdom, a city where he thrived, where every merger, every tech launch, every strategic win was just another milestone in his storied career. But tonight, the city felt foreign, cold, distant. His reflection in the window was not one of the powerful CEO the world knew, but of a man who had everything, and yet somehow, nothing at all. Logan's words echoed in his head, each one slicing deeper than the last. "She didn't need your money, she needed you." He had spent years believing Samantha had abandoned him, that she had left without explanation. But in truth, she had been raising their son alone, struggling in ways he had never imagined. The image of her working long hours, scraping by to pay rent while he was celebrating IPO milestones and closing multi-million-dollar contracts made his stomach twist with guilt. How had he not known, how had he never sensed it, that a part of him was out there, growing up without him? His mind returned to the cemetery, to the moment he saw Logan for the first time. He hadn't needed a DNA test to know. It had been there in the boy's eyes, in the angles of his face. Logan was his son. There was no denying it. And yet, Logan had walked away, leaving Marcus drowning in questions. He couldn't let it end like this. He had spent his life crafting outcomes, predicting risks, controlling narratives. He wasn't going to lose his son without understanding. He grabbed his phone and dialed the one person he knew could help, Victor Hale, a private investigator he had used discreetly in the past. Within minutes, Victor picked up, his tone calm and professional. "Mr. Langford, what can I do for you?" "Mr. Langford, what can I do for you?" Marcus hesitated only briefly before speaking. "I need you to find someone. A young man named Logan. I don't have a last name, I just know his mother was Samantha Langford." There was a short pause on the other end before Victor replied, "I'll see what I can do." The next day, Marcus buried himself in work, desperately trying to distract himself from the emotional storm brewing inside. Meetings, project briefs, financial reports, none of it held the same weight it once had. For the first time in years, the success he had built felt meaningless. He had dedicated his life to wealth, to legacy, but what good was any of it if the one thing that truly mattered had slipped through his fingers? By evening, his phone buzzed. It was Victor. "I found him," the investigator said simply. "Logan Langford, 23 years old, lives in a modest apartment near Alberta Park, works at an auto shop on Killingsworth Street." Marcus exhaled, gripping the edge of his desk. "Send me the address." Later that night, he found himself parked outside a rundown apartment building in northeast Portland. It was a stark contrast to the sleek world of high-rises and private elevators he was used to. The stairs were rusted, paint peeled from the walls, and the place had a cold, forgotten feel. He sat there for a moment, heartbeat loud in his ears. He had negotiated billion-dollar tech deals and stood toe-to-toe with industry giants. But standing in front of this door, about to face his own son, was the most terrifying moment of his life. He knocked twice. The door cracked open, revealing Logan's wary face. The moment he saw Marcus, his expression hardened. "What the hell are you doing here?" he asked sharply. Marcus took a deep breath. "I just want to talk." Logan scoffed, shaking his head. "You don't give up, do you?" "No," Marcus admitted, "not when something matters." For a long moment, Logan didn't move. Then, with a reluctant sigh, he stepped aside, letting Marcus into the apartment. It was small and cluttered, the furniture worn, the walls covered with pinned-up sketches and blueprints. Marcus's eyes flicked toward them, recognizing detailed mechanical drawings. "You're an engineer?" he asked. Logan shrugged. "Trying to be. Studying part-time at Portland State, working at the garage to cover tuition." Marcus felt another surge of guilt. His son had been grinding to build a future for himself, while Marcus lived in a glass tower, completely unaware he existed. He cleared his throat. "I didn't come here to judge your life. He hesitated, searching for the right words. "I just need to understand. Why didn't she tell me?" Logan crossed his arms, leaning back against the kitchen counter. "Because she didn't want to be your charity case. She knew you had your empire, your priorities. She didn't want to drag you into something you never signed up for." Marcus felt a sharp tightening in his chest. "But I would have chosen," he said softly, barely above a whisper. "I would have been there." Logan let out a dry, bitter laugh. "Would you? Or would you have written a check and moved on?" Marcus clenched his jaw. He had never felt this helpless in his life. "I can't change the past, Logan," he said quietly. "But I can be here now, if you'll let me." Logan studied him for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then, with a sigh, he turned away. "I don't know if I can trust you," he admitted. "But I guess we'll see." Marcus felt a flicker of hope. It wasn't forgiveness, it wasn't even acceptance. But it was something. A beginning. Marcus sat across from Logan in the small apartment, feeling like an outsider in his own son's world. The silence between them was thick, weighted with all the years they had lost. Marcus wanted to say something, anything, to cut through it. But this wasn't his boardroom. This wasn't a quarterly report or a strategic pitch. This was foreign territory. Logan stood at the counter, arms crossed, eyes sharp, studying Marcus like he was still deciding whether to let him in or shut him out completely. Then Marcus noticed the sketches pinned to the walls. Intricate mechanical designs, blueprints, engineering drafts. These weren't doodles. They were precise, filled with annotations and calculations. He pointed to one. "You designed this?" Logan hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, it's for a project I've been working on at school." Marcus stepped closer to get a better look. "This is impressive. You've got real talent." Logan scoffed. "Thanks, but talent doesn't pay tuition." Another pang of guilt hit Marcus. Logan had been fighting to put himself through school, while Marcus lived in penthouses and negotiated luxury tech partnerships, unaware that his own son even existed. He cleared his throat. "I didn't come here to judge your life. He paused, searching again for the right words. "I just want to understand. What's your goal? What do you want to do after graduation?" Logan looked at him for a moment, then replied, "I want to work in automotive engineering, design more efficient engines, maybe even start my own company someday." Marcus nodded slowly, feeling an unexpected swell of pride. "That's a solid plan. Have you looked into internships? Connections?" Logan let out a bitter laugh. "Connections? I barely have enough time to study between shifts at the shop. I don't exactly have people lining up to hand me opportunities." Marcus hesitated. He wanted to offer help, but he didn't want to risk crossing the line. "If you ever need guidance," he said carefully, "I know people in the industry. I could make a few calls." Logan's face darkened. "I don't need handouts." "It's not a handout," Marcus said firmly. "It's support. The kind of support a father should give his son." Logan flinched at the word father, and Marcus immediately regretted saying it so soon. He knew trust wasn't something that could be built overnight. "Look, I'm not here to push myself into your life," Marcus continued. "But I've already lost so much time. I don't want to waste whatever chance I might still have." Logan sighed, rubbing a hand over his face. "It's not that simple." "I know," Marcus admitted. "But maybe we could start small. A meal, a conversation, no expectations, just getting to know each other." Logan hesitated for a long while before finally giving a reluctant nod. "Fine, one meal? That's it." Relief flooded through Marcus. It wasn't much, but it was something. A start. The next evening, they met at a small diner near Logan's apartment. It wasn't the kind of place Marcus was used to. Far from the upscale Portland restaurants where waiters knew his name and wine lists were longer than menus. But sitting across from Logan, Marcus realized this place suited him. It was real, unpretentious, just like him. They ordered their food, and for a while, silence filled the space between them. Then slowly Logan began talking, not about anything deeply personal, but about his work, his classes, the things he was passionate about. Marcus listened, absorbing every word. It was the first real conversation they had shared, and for the first time, Marcus felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, he could earn a place in Logan's life. As they finished their meal, Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. "I meant what I said about helping you," he said, sliding it across the table. "No pressure. Just, if you ever need advice or an opportunity, this is my direct line." Logan hesitated before taking the card and slipping it into his wallet without a word. It wasn't a promise, but it was something. As they stepped outside, the cool night air wrapped around them. Logan shoved his hands deep into his jacket pockets. "This doesn't change anything," he muttered. "But thanks for dinner." Marcus nodded. "One step at a time." Logan looked at him for a long moment, then gave a small nod. Without another word, he turned and walked away. Marcus watched him disappear into the night, a mixture of emotions churning inside him. He had no idea where this road would lead. But for the first time in years, he felt like he had something worth fighting for. Marcus had always been a man of action. Throughout his life, he had made decisions with the certainty that came from experience. He was used to being in control, used to knowing what came next. But in this new chapter with Logan, he felt like he was charting unfamiliar territory. It had been weeks since their dinner at the diner. They hadn't spoken much since, but Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that something was shifting. Logan hadn't reached out, but he hadn't pushed Marcus away either. The silence between them now felt less uncomfortable. Now, like a quiet truce that both of them were silently honoring, it was fragile, but it was peace nonetheless. Marcus had done everything he could to maintain the connection without overwhelming Logan. He sent a few text messages now and then, simple check-ins. He never pushed too hard, and occasionally Logan would respond. The replies were brief, but civil. Just updates on school or work. No talk of the past. No deeper emotions. Still, Marcus clung to those small moments of contact. He knew this would take time. He had to show Logan that he wasn't just another wealthy man trying to buy his way into someone's life. Logan had made it clear from the very beginning. He didn't want pity, and certainly not charity. Marcus respected that. He wasn't trying to buy affection. He only wanted the chance to earn it. Then, one Saturday afternoon, Logan finally reached out. Marcus's phone buzzed, and when he saw the name on the screen, his heart skipped a beat. The message was simple. "You free to grab coffee?" Marcus replied within seconds. "Absolutely." "When and where?" They agreed to meet at a cafe in southeast Portland, a spot Logan said was one of his favorites. It was a small, independent shop on Division Street, tucked between two weathered buildings. The kind of place where the barista knew everyone's name and your regular order. Marcus arrived early, nerves buzzing under his calm exterior. This was a chance, maybe the first real one, to build something meaningful with his son. When Logan walked in, Marcus immediately noticed how much he resembled Samantha. It wasn't just in the curve of his jaw or the color of his eyes, it was in the way he moved, the quiet confidence, the focus in his gaze. For a moment, Marcus had to remind himself to stay composed, to not let emotion take over. Logan was here. That was what mattered. They exchanged a quick greeting, and Logan led Marcus to a corner table by the window. It was a quiet spot with a clear view of the busy street outside, the usual weekend rhythm of Portland moving past them. Logan ordered his coffee black, just like his mother used to drink it, and Marcus followed suit. For the first time in weeks, the silence between them didn't feel heavy. "So," Logan began, breaking the quiet, "I've been thinking a lot about what you said that night." Marcus nodded cautiously. "What part?" "You know," Logan said, taking a sip of his coffee, "about wanting to get to know me, about wanting to be involved." He looked down at his cup, his fingers tapping the ceramic, then added, "I've kind of been a jerk about it, haven't I?" Marcus nearly blinked. An apology. He hadn't expected that. "No," he said gently. "You haven't been a jerk. You've been honest. And I respect that." Logan gave a small nod, his eyes still on the coffee. "I guess I don't know what to make of all this. I've spent my whole life thinking I was alone in this, and now you're telling me you've been out there the whole time, living a completely different life." Marcus felt the weight of those words settle deep inside him. He had never truly understood how much his absence had impacted Logan. But now, seeing the pain in his eyes, he finally grasped the enormity of what he had missed. "I can't change what happened, Logan," he said gently. "But I can be here now, if you'll let me." Logan didn't answer right away. He seemed lost in thought, his gaze drifting to the street outside. "I don't know if I can just forget everything," he said quietly. "I've built my life without you. I've learned to rely on myself. It's not easy to just let someone in." Marcus understood. He had built his life around deals and data, assets and ambition. But none of it mattered now. None of it could replace the relationship he had never known with his own son. "I'm not asking you to forget," Marcus said. "I'm asking for a chance to be part of your life. No strings, no expectations, just figuring this out together." Logan met his gaze. His expression softened slightly for the first time. "I'm still pissed about a lot of things, about how all of this went down." He paused. "But I'm also curious, and I guess that's something, right?" Marcus smiled, feeling a deep sense of relief. He hadn't even realized how heavily it had been weighing on him. "That's more than enough for me." For the next hour they talked. Slowly, the walls between them began to come down. They spoke about school, Logan's goals, his interest in building better engines, even the awkwardness of their first encounter. Marcus told Logan about his work, about the long nights, the company he built, but he made sure to listen more than he spoke. This wasn't about him. This was about Logan, and about the years they had lost. As they stood to leave, Logan caught him off guard. "You know," he said, "maybe we could do this again sometime." "Grab coffee," he shrugged. "I don't know about being a family or anything," but he paused, then added, "Maybe we could try. One step at a time, right?" Marcus's heart lifted. For the first time, he allowed himself to hope. It wasn't everything, but it was something. A beginning. Marcus found himself checking his phone more often than usual, waiting for a message that might never come. Ever since their conversation at the cafe, something had shifted. The way Logan looked at him, spoke to him, it wasn't an open door. Not yet. But it wasn't locked anymore either. A few days passed, and Logan hadn't reached out. Marcus didn't push. He knew this would take time. Patience. Something he had mastered in business, but had never really practiced in his personal life. Then, late one evening, as he sat alone in his penthouse overlooking the lights of downtown Portland, his phone buzzed. He grabbed it quickly, his heart leaping just a little when he saw Logan's name. The message was simple. "Hey, you busy?" Marcus replied immediately. "Not at all. What's up?" There was a pause, then another message. "Just thinking. You free to talk?" Marcus felt a wave of quiet relief wash over him. Maybe, just maybe, this was progress. "Of course, call any time." A moment later, Marcus's phone rang. He answered on the first ring. "Hey, Logan." There was a brief silence on the other end. Then Logan exhaled, like he'd been debating whether or not to make the call at all. "Hey," he said finally. "I guess I just wanted to ask you something." "Go ahead," Marcus replied, keeping his tone calm and neutral. "I was wondering about my mom," Logan said hesitantly. "You've told me a little about how you met her, but I never really got to hear your side of the story." Marcus felt his chest tighten. He had spent years trying to block out the memories of the past, but now, hearing Logan ask, he realized he actually wanted to remember. "Your mother was incredible," he said softly, choosing his words carefully. "We met in college, back in Seattle. She was studying journalism, and I was drowning in engineering and business classes. I was so focused on chasing my goals that I barely noticed the world around me. But your mom, she made sure people noticed her. Not because she was loud, but because she had this energy, this warmth. She could walk into a room and make everyone feel like they belonged." There was a pause on the line before Logan responded. "That sounds like her." Marcus smiled, though it was tinged with sadness. She had a way of making life feel bigger than it was. She believed in things, in people. She used to tell me that success wasn't just about making money, it was about making a difference. I didn't get it back then. I was too young, too focused on my career to really understand. "So what happened?" Logan asked, his voice softer now. Marcus sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I got a job offer in San Francisco right after graduation. It was everything I thought I'd ever wanted. A position at a top tech firm, a fast track to success. Your mom wanted to stay in Seattle for a while longer and finish an internship she was passionate about. We promised we'd make it work long distance. But I was young and selfish. I put my ambitions before everything else, before her." Logan didn't say anything for a long moment, and Marcus worried he had said too much. Then finally, Logan spoke again. She never really talked about you much, he admitted. I mean, I always knew who you were, but she didn't say much about what happened. I guess I just assumed you left and never looked back. Marcus swallowed the lump forming in his throat. I didn't want to leave her, Logan. I thought I was doing the right thing at the time. I told myself I would come back for her, that once I had built my career we could pick up where we left off. But life doesn't work that way. Time moves forward, and by the time I realized how much I had lost, she was gone. Logan let out a deep breath. Yeah, he said quietly, she was gone. Marcus felt the full weight of those words settle on him. I regret it, Logan, every single day. Another silence stretched between them, but this time it wasn't tense. It was the kind of silence that happens when two people are finally beginning to understand one another. Then Logan spoke again. I think I want to know more, he admitted. Not just about her, about you, about everything. Marcus's heart swelled. I would like that, he said sincerely. Logan hesitated, then added, but it has to be on my terms. No pressure, no expectations. Of course, Marcus agreed immediately. Whenever you're ready. There was a pause. Then Logan asked something that caught Marcus completely off guard. Do you think she would have wanted us to know each other? Marcus's throat tightened. I know she would, he said, voice thick with emotion. Your mother always believed in second chances. Logan didn't say anything right away. When he finally spoke, his voice was quieter, almost thoughtful. Maybe we could meet again soon, just to talk. Marcus felt a surge of hope, something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in a long time. I'd like that, he said warmly. As the call ended, Marcus sat back, staring out at the Portland skyline. For the first time in years, he felt something shift inside him. He had spent so long running from the past, from his mistakes. But maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late to make things right. Marcus arrived early at the small cafe on Division Street, where he and Logan had agreed to meet. He chose a table near the window, hands clasped together as he tried to settle the nerves dancing in his chest. It had been a long time since he had felt this kind of anticipation. This strange mixture of hope and anxiety. Their first meeting had gone better than expected, but now came the real test, proving to Logan that he was serious about being in his life. The bell above the door chimed. Marcus looked up to see Logan entering the cafe. His posture was a little stiff, but he walked with intent, without hesitation. That alone gave Marcus a small wave of relief. Logan spotted him and approached the table, sliding into the seat across from him without saying much. Thanks for coming, Marcus said carefully, scanning Logan's face for any sign of how he was feeling. Logan shrugged. Figured it wouldn't hurt to talk. Marcus nodded, deciding not to push. A waitress came by and they both ordered coffee. There was a brief moment of silence before Logan spoke again. So, what exactly do you do? The question caught Marcus slightly off guard, but he welcomed it. I run an investment firm, Marcus said. We manage portfolios, help businesses grow, that kind of thing. Logan smirked slightly. So basically, you make rich people richer. Marcus chuckled, appreciating the dry humor. That's one way to put it. Logan took a sip of his coffee. I don't really know anything about finance. Mom was more into writing. I guess I got that from her. I'm studying journalism at PSU. Marcus's eyes widened slightly. Journalism? That's amazing. Your mother would be so proud. Logan shifted in his seat. Yeah, well, I don't know if I'm any good at it, but I like it. You must be good, Marcus said, if you got into Portland State. Logan hesitated for a second, then admitted, I actually got a scholarship. Mom always wanted me to follow what I loved, but college wasn't cheap. I had to work for it. Marcus felt a pang of guilt. He had more money than he could ever spend, and yet his own son had struggled to get through college alone. I had no idea, he said quietly. Of course you didn't, Logan replied. There was no anger in his voice, just a simple, honest truth. Marcus exhaled, fully realizing how much he had missed. I know I can't change the past, Logan, he said, but I want to be part of your future, if you'll let me. Logan was quiet for a long moment, staring into his coffee cup like it might contain the answer. I don't know what that looks like, he admitted. Neither do I, Marcus said honestly, but we can figure it out. No pressure, no expectations, just one conversation at a time. Logan looked up at him then, really looked at him. And for the first time, Marcus felt like he was seeing something other than a wall. Okay, Logan said finally. One conversation at a time. Marcus smiled, a warmth spreading through him that he hadn't felt in years. They talked for over an hour after that, about small things. Movies they liked, books Logan was reading, Marcus's ridiculous work schedule. It wasn't always easy. There were still moments when Logan seemed hesitant, like he didn't want to let his guard down too far. But Marcus didn't mind. He knew this wasn't going to be simple. Relationships didn't happen overnight. As they stepped outside the cafe, Logan shoved his hands into his jacket pockets. I should get going. Got a paper due tomorrow. Marcus nodded. Of course, but maybe we can do this again sometime? Logan hesitated for only a second before nodding. Yeah. I think I'd like that. Marcus's heart lifted. Me too. Logan gave a small nod, then turned and walked off into the busy Portland streets, and Marcus stood there watching him go, feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. He had already missed 20 years of his son's life. He wasn't about to let any more slip away. So after a few days, Marcus sent Logan a text. It was simple. Hope your paper went well. Let me know if you ever want to grab coffee again. He didn't expect an immediate response, but to his surprise, his phone buzzed a few minutes later. It went all right. Coffee sounds good. Maybe this weekend. Marcus felt a wave of relief and quickly typed back. Sounds perfect. Let me know when and where. They met again, this time at a different cafe, one closer to Logan's campus in downtown Portland. Logan seemed a little more at ease now, though there was still a cautious edge in his demeanor. They kept the conversation light. Marcus asked about Logan's classes, and in turn, Logan asked a few questions about Marcus's firm. It wasn't exactly a father-son bonding moment, but it was something, and Marcus was deeply grateful for that. As they sat in the cafe, Logan hesitated, then asked a question that caught Marcus off guard. Why did you and my mom break up? It was the first time Logan had asked something that personal, something that went beyond the surface. Marcus knew he had to be honest. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. We were young, he admitted. I met her when I was just starting out in my career. She was incredible, smart, passionate, full of energy. But I got caught up in work. I kept promising her things would slow down, that I'd make more time for us. But it never happened. Eventually, she got tired of waiting. Logan was silent for a moment, then asked, Did you ever try to find her? Marcus felt his throat tighten. I did. A few years after we broke up, I realized how much I'd lost. But by then, she had already moved to Chicago. I didn't know she was pregnant, Logan. If I had... He trailed off, unsure how to finish the sentence. Logan looked down at his coffee, absorbing everything. She never talked about you much, he said. I mean, I knew your name, but she never made you sound like a bad guy. Just someone who wasn't there. Marcus swallowed the lump forming in his throat. I regret it every day, he said quietly. I should have done more. I should have fought harder to stay in her life. And if I had known about you, he shook his head. I don't expect you to forgive me, Logan, but I want you to know. If I could go back and change the past, I would. Logan stared at him for a long time, then let out a slow exhale. I don't know what to do with all this. You don't have to do anything, Marcus said. We take it one step at a time. No pressure. Logan nodded slowly. Okay. They sat in silence for a while after that, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt like progress. When they finally left the cafe, Marcus walked with Logan a few blocks before they parted ways. Just as Logan was about to head off, he hesitated, then turned and said, Hey, thanks for reaching out. Marcus smiled. Thanks for giving me a chance. As he watched Logan disappear into the crowd, Marcus felt something shift inside him. For the first time in years, he felt like he was moving forward instead of looking back. He had a long way to go, but at least now he wasn't walking that road alone. Marcus couldn't remember the last time he had felt this anxious about something that wasn't work-related. Over the past few weeks, he and Logan had met a few more times. Each meeting had felt a little less tense, a little more natural. They weren't exactly close, not yet, but the wall Logan had built around himself was beginning to show cracks. Today, however, was different. Today, Marcus had invited Logan to his home. For the first time, it wasn't a grand gesture, just dinner. Something simple, but to Marcus it felt monumental. He had spent the entire day preparing, making sure everything was just right. He wasn't much of a cook, but he had arranged for a chef to prepare a meal, hoping to make a good impression without making it seem over the top. When the doorbell rang, he took a deep breath and opened it. Logan stood there, looking slightly uncomfortable, but not hesitant enough to turn back. He wore a casual hoodie and jeans, a sharp contrast to Marcus's pressed shirt and slacks. But Marcus didn't care. He was just grateful Logan had shown up. "Hey," Marcus greeted, stepping aside to let him in. Logan looked around as he entered, taking in the modern yet warmly decorated penthouse overlooking downtown Portland. "This place is nice," he said, and Marcus could hear the unspoken thought, "This place is huge." Marcus smiled. "Thanks. Make yourself at home." Logan wandered further inside, examining the art on the walls, the sleek furniture, the polished wood floors. "So, this is what investment firms buy you, huh?" he mused, a slight smirk on his face. Marcus chuckled. "Something like that, but honestly, all of this means nothing if you don't have someone to share it with." He hadn't meant for the comment to be heavy, but Logan seemed to catch the underlying emotion anyway. "Well, you've got me here now," Logan replied, his tone teasing, but his words carried weight. Marcus's chest tightened slightly. "That I do." They moved to the dining room, where the table was already set and the food plated beautifully. Logan raised an eyebrow. "Did you make all this?" Marcus laughed. "I wish I had some help," Logan smirked. "Figures." As they ate, conversation flowed more easily than Marcus had expected. They talked about Logan's classes, his favorite books, his plans for after graduation. Marcus shared stories from his own college years, moments that made Logan laugh. Each one felt like a small victory. But then, as they finished dessert, Logan leaned back in his chair and looked at Marcus seriously. "So, what now?" he asked. Marcus set his fork down, knowing exactly what Logan meant. "That's up to you," he said honestly. "I don't want to push you into anything you're not ready for," Marcus said. Logan nodded, staring at his plate for a moment before looking up. "I don't know how to do this, the whole father-son thing. I mean, I never really had a dad. It was just me and my mom." Marcus swallowed the lump in his throat. "We don't have to rush anything. We can just be in each other's lives, however that makes sense for us." Logan exhaled. "I think I'd like that." Marcus smiled, a wave of relief washing over him. "Me too." Logan glanced around the apartment again. "You know, I always used to wonder what my dad was like, if he was some deadbeat, or if he just didn't care." He looked back at Marcus. "But you're not what I expected." Marcus hesitated. "What did you expect?" Logan smirked. "Some old rich guy with no personality." Marcus laughed. "Well, I'm definitely rich, but I like to think I have at least a little personality." Logan chuckled. "Yeah, you're all right. It wasn't a grand declaration of affection, but it was something. And for now, that was more than enough." Marcus found himself adjusting to a new rhythm, one that included Logan in ways he had never imagined just months earlier. Their meetings had become more frequent, evolving from the occasional coffee to dinners, walks through the Pearl District, and even a few Trailblazers games. Each interaction chipped away at the invisible wall that had separated them for so long. There were still moments of hesitation, but Marcus could feel the bond between them strengthening. It was strange, learning to be a father so late in life, but Marcus cherished every moment he got with Logan. Still, there was a lingering fear, always present in the back of his mind. One wrong move, one misstep, and he worried Logan might retreat again. So Marcus didn't push. He let Logan set the pace. One evening, as they sat in a small diner near Logan's campus, Logan said something unexpected. "I've been thinking about visiting Chicago." He stirred his milkshake absent-mindedly. Marcus looked up from his plate. "Oh? Any particular reason?" Logan hesitated for a moment, then sighed. "I want to visit my mom's grave." His voice was steady, but Marcus could hear the tension underneath. "I haven't been since the funeral. I feel like it's time." Marcus felt a pang of sadness at the mention of Samantha. He had been so focused on building something new with Logan, he hadn't fully considered how much his son might still be grieving. "That's a good idea," Marcus said gently. "If you want, I can come with you." Logan glanced at him, surprised. "You'd do that?" Marcus nodded. "Of course, if you'd rather go alone, I completely understand. But if you want company, I'd be honored to go with you." Logan was quiet for a moment, then gave a small nod. "Yeah, I think I'd like that." A few days later, they flew to Chicago. A city that held so much history for Logan but very little for Marcus. The flight was quiet, both of them lost in their own thoughts. When they arrived, Logan led Marcus to the cemetery where Samantha was buried. The air was crisp, the sky overcast as they walked through rows of headstones until they reached hers. Logan stood in front of the grave, hands in his jacket pockets, staring down at the engraved letters of his mother's name. "Hey, Mom," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. Marcus stepped back, giving Logan the space he needed. He watched as his son knelt down, tracing his fingers over the inscription. "I'm doing okay," Logan said softly. "I know you worried about me a lot, but I'm figuring things out. College is good. I've made some friends. I met my dad." His voice wavered slightly. "I wasn't sure how to feel about it at first, but he's not what I expected. He's trying, Mom, and I think you'd be okay with that." Marcus's chest tightened. He had spent so long carrying the weight of not being there for Samantha, not knowing about Logan, missing out on so much. But hearing Logan say that Samantha would have been okay with him being in Logan's life, it felt like a quiet form of redemption. After a while, Logan stood up and exhaled deeply. He turned to Marcus, his expression softer than before. "Thanks for coming with me." Marcus placed a hand gently on his shoulder. "Always." They left the cemetery in silence, but it wasn't awkward. It was a meaningful silence, full of understanding, shared memories, and something unspoken passing between them. As they got into the car, Logan turned to Marcus with a small smile. "You hungry? There's this pizza place Mom used to take me to when I was a kid. Best deep dish in the city." Marcus grinned. "Sounds perfect." As they drove through the streets of Chicago, something felt different. It wasn't just the city, it wasn't just the moment, it was them. The walls that had once stood so high between them were now barely standing, and for the first time Marcus felt like he truly had his son in his life. Marcus had never imagined his life would take such a turn. From being a self-made investor who believed he had everything he could ever need, to realizing he had a son he never even knew about. The past few months had been a whirlwind of emotions, but now, as he sat in his office overlooking the Portland skyline, he felt something he hadn't in years: contentment. Logan had become an integral part of his life, and despite their rough start, they had built something real. It wasn't just about making up for lost time anymore. It was about moving forward, together. The trip to Chicago had changed something between them. It had solidified their relationship in a way neither had expected. Marcus had worried that visiting Samantha's grave might reopen old wounds, but instead, it had brought them both a sense of closure. Logan had finally allowed himself to let go of some of the pain he had been holding on to. And in doing so, he had made space for Marcus. Logan had just finished his semester, and Marcus invited him over for dinner at the penthouse in Portland. It had become a new tradition. Logan would come by, and they'd cook together, or at least attempt to, since neither of them was particularly gifted in the kitchen. And they'd talk about everything: sports, business, Logan's plans for the future. That evening, as Logan chopped vegetables and Marcus stirred a pot of pasta sauce, Logan suddenly turned to him with a serious look. "I've been thinking," he said. "I want to intern at your company this summer." Marcus blinked in surprise. "Really?" he asked, trying to contain his excitement. He had always hoped Logan might take an interest, but never wanted to pressure him. Logan nodded. "Yeah, I'm studying business, and it just makes sense to get some real-world experience. Besides, I want to see what you do up close." Marcus set the spoon down and looked at his son. "I think that's a great idea, but just so we're clear, you're going to have to work just as hard as everyone else. No special treatment." Logan smirked. "I wouldn't expect anything less." Dinner that night felt different, lighter. As if they had finally reached a point where their relationship was no longer defined by what they had missed, but by what they were building. They laughed, shared stories, and for the first time, Marcus didn't feel like he was making up for lost time. He felt like a father. A few weeks later, Logan started his internship at Marcus's firm. At first, there were whispers about the CEO's son working among them, but Logan quickly proved he wasn't there for appearances. He showed up early, stayed late, asked smart questions. He wanted to learn from everyone. Marcus couldn't have been prouder. One evening, as they wrapped up a long day at the office, Logan knocked on Marcus's door. "Got a minute?" he asked. Marcus motioned for him to come in and sit. "What's on your mind?" Logan hesitated, then spoke. "I know things didn't happen the way they were supposed to. I grew up thinking I didn't have a dad, and then suddenly you were there. At first I resented it. I resented you. But now I'm glad I found you." He paused, took a breath. "Or maybe I'm glad you found me." Marcus felt his throat tighten. He had spent so many years weighed down by guilt. But those words, those simple words, made him realize that what mattered most wasn't what he had missed. It was what he had now. "I'm glad too," he said, voice steady. "I may have missed the first 18 years, but I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere." Logan gave a small smile. "Good, because I think I might actually like having you around." Marcus chuckled. "Well, that's a relief." That summer was the best of Marcus's life. They worked together, went to Blazers games, even took a weekend trip to California. Just for the hell of it. Logan had gone from being a stranger to being family. And for the first time in a long time, Marcus felt like his life was whole. Years later, when Logan graduated and officially joined the firm full-time, Marcus knew he hadn't just gained a son. He had found his legacy. Logan wasn't just his flesh and blood. He was his greatest achievement. Proof that sometimes life gives you second chances when you least expect them. And this time, Marcus was determined not to waste a single moment. Dear friend, sometimes the most profound healing doesn't come from erasing the past. It comes from choosing to embrace the present with open arms. Like Marcus, we all carry regrets, things left unsaid, time lost. But as the Stoics remind us, we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. Logan didn't need a perfect father. He needed a present one. And Marcus, in showing up, not just once, but again and again, discovered a truth many spend a lifetime chasing. Legacy is not what we leave behind, but who we choose to show up for today. So wherever you are in your own story, know this: it's never too late to be what you might have been. Your next chapter is waiting. Start it with courage. If this story moved you, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. It helps us bring more meaningful content to life, and maybe, just maybe, it'll help someone else find their second chance too.